For 10 years, he didn't touch his Xbox. Why? Because the last person he played with was his father. A man no longer alive, but never forgotten. When he finally turned it back on, he discovered something waiting inside. Something that made millions ask, can a video game hold a ghost? Back in 2014, someone asked online, can video games carry a spiritual experience? Most people laughed, but one reply stopped everyone. It wasn't about graphics or storylines, it was about memory. He explained, as a boy, he played Rally Sport Challenge with his dad, lap after lap, side by side. Then, his father passed away, and the Xbox became a tombstone, too painful to touch, too sacred to throw away. For nearly 10 years, it gathered dust, until one day, he loaded the game again, and suddenly, his father's ghost car appeared. The game had saved his runs, every drift, every mistake, every victory, and there it was. Not a photo, not a video, but a moving, living trace of his father. He raced against it, and he always lost. But instead of fighting to win, he let his dad stay ahead, because this wasn't about victory, it was about presence. That simple story went viral, not because it was flashy, but because it was human. The Pokémon save file.
Pika pika, Pikachu.
2 years later, another ghost appeared. A man found his old Nintendo DS. Inside, Pokémon Emerald. He loaded the game and saw the save file he had built with his brother. A brother who had died years before, in a car accident. On the screen was their team. Pokémon they had raised together. Creatures that carried laughter, fights, late nights. That save wasn't just data. It was a time capsule. The last adventure they shared. Frozen forever. He wrote, "I'll never delete this save. It's the last thing we built together." Think about that. Not a gravestone, not a faded photo, but a digital world, holding memory. Funerals and digital memorials. In 2020, World of Warcraft witnessed something heartbreaking. A player named Rekful passed away, and the community decided to honor him. Not with flowers, not with headstones, but with a funeral inside the game. Hundreds of avatars lined up in Stormwind and Orgrimmar, typing prayers, standing shoulder to shoulder in silence. The usual battlegrounds and quest hubs suddenly became sacred ground. A fantasy world turned into a church. Screenshots of the event spread online. Comment sections filled with disbelief. To some, it looked silly, but for those who were there, it was one of the most moving moments of their lives. And it wasn't the last time. In 2020, during the pandemic, Final Fantasy XIV players held a mass memorial for a member lost to COVID. Thousands of characters filled the streets, bowing, kneeling, paying respect in pixels. It looked like a parade, but it was a memorial, and it showed something powerful. When reality is too far, people grieve where they can, because grief doesn't wait for the right place. It simply finds a space, and in these moments, games became cemeteries. But not every memorial looks like a parade. Sometimes, it's just a single glowing name on a screen. Because in MMOs, the dead don't always log off. In World of Warcraft, Guild Wars, EVE Online, still show names of players long gone. Their characters remain. Their usernames still glow. For some, it's haunting. For others, comforting. One guild leader wrote, "I'll never remove his name. He's still part of us." A glowing username became a gravestone. And when new members join those guilds, sometimes they ask, "Who is this player? I never see him online." And veterans answer, "He was one of us. He still is." Digital immortality doesn't mean never dying. It means never being deleted. And sometimes, players take it even further. In EVE Online, space is war. Ships explode. Empires rise and fall. But in 2016, something different happened. Players built a memorial in space, a beacon for a beloved member who had died, and thousands of ships traveled light years to gather around it, not to fight, not to mine, but to grieve. For hours, no shots were fired, just silence. In a game known for endless conflict, grief became stronger than war. It wasn't coded by developers. It wasn't programmed. It was humanity. In a galaxy of pixels. Voices on Xbox Live. Sometimes ghosts don't just move, they speak. Parents have written about replaying old Xbox Live messages from their children. One father said, "My son died in 2012. I still play his voice messages every month. It feels like he's calling from the other room." Imagine scrolling your inbox, pressing play, and hearing a laugh you thought was gone forever. Not just memory, not just imagination, but sound. The voice, the tone, the words. Technology wasn't designed for this, but it became this. And for grieving families, a console became a speaker for the dead. The Digital Afterlife. So what does all this mean? Are these just coincidences? Or are games something more? We think of them as escape, entertainment, distraction, but these stories show something else. For one boy, his father lived inside an Xbox. For another, his brother lived in a Pokémon save. For entire guilds, friends lived on in online worlds. And for parents, children's voices still echo in audio. Games don't just entertain, they remember. Unlike memory, data doesn't fade. It doesn't blur. It doesn't forget. It waits. Until one day, someone presses start. And it's only going to grow stranger. AI can now clone voices, rebuild faces, simulate conversations. We're entering a future where you could talk to a digital version of your grandmother. Or play alongside an AI copy of your best friend. Is that comfort or illusion? Does it heal or haunt? Maybe the truth is simple. Games can be many things. Art, escape, addiction. But sometimes they're more. They're tombstones. They're altars. They're temples of memory. So, can video games carry a spiritual experience? The answer is yes. Because sometimes the dead don't leave. They just wait for us to press play.